The Business is sponsored by Kingston Smith Chartered Accountants.
Hello, I'm Clare McAnulty and welcome to The Business, the show that's essential listening for the West Herts business community. Tonight, for a lot of new entrepreneurs, the idea of working from home is idyllic and appears to be at the top of many wish lists. After all, most basic startups involve a computer and a broadband. Facilities most of us already have. But does there come a time when moving out of home and into an office is advisable? We'll be looking at the benefits of having an office and also where to find office space in West Herts. We talked to local enterprise agency WENTA. They run a scheme for startups called My Incubator. This allows new entrepreneurs to rent office space at a very reasonable rate and a lot more besides. We also talked to a number of business owners who started at home but now find having an office has helped them in lots of ways they hadn't appreciated before moving. Our studio guest this evening is Roma Bhowmick, and Roma currently works with fast-growing businesses to help them expand and grow. In the past, she's also worked for Business Link and knows firsthand the type of issues that startups and small entrepreneurs face. But first, let me introduce my presenting partner tonight, Vicky Scott. So, Vicky, how's your week been?
Well, I think it's been incredibly exciting for all of us. Who could have guessed what it was going to be looking like in terms of the political scene? I don't think we can get away with the show without some sort of comment on the general election. So I sort of tried to figure out what was important about it from a sort of marketing perspective. And I think what I came back with really was that with the best brains in the land, if you're dealing with the general public, you really can't predict behaviour. And through the week I watched this fantastic documentary where I think it was the Beeb that had got hold of a renowned US firm who'd accurately predicted about 100% of the state US state elections over the last few years, and the Beeb asked them to have a look at what was going on in the UK and make some predictions. And it was a really fascinating programme. There's lots of economics and predictive modelling and regression analysis and all this sort of stuff. And then in the final sort of 3 minutes of the show, they sort of said, so with all this information and all this detail, what can you tell us is going to happen? And they said, we don't know. Which I just thought was, absolutely fascinating and very, very honest. And I sort of mention it because loads and loads of our small businesses do operate in the B2C sector, the business to consumer sector. And quite often, certainly with my clients, I find that they're sort of saying to me, so, who can help? Who will know the answer to this? Who will know how the customer's going to react? And the reality is that when it comes to the general public, absolutely anything can happen. So I think the message I suppose I got from the general election was when you are in that SME environment and you are in the B2C sector, just be sensible about how you do business. Don't overstock with things that you like that other people might not. Try lots of different channels to market, because just because you think that everybody does it in that way because you do, it might be that they don't. And learn from your mistakes. Don't assume as well that anybody else has all the answers, because clearly if the best brains in the land can't figure these things out, then how are we expected to? So that was my big sort of take from what's been a very exciting election week.
Well, like you, I've watched the election this weekend, and of course the minute the election programme started, they had the exit poll, didn't they? And everybody was saying, well, that can't possibly be right. But I happen to know that only 10 days ago, Ladbrokes were giving odds of 7-1 on the Conservatives winning a majority in the general election. Now, I don't know this because I'm a frequenter.
I was going to say, did you put a bet on?
No, unfortunately I didn't. But the papers this week reported that a Glasgow pensioner put down £30,000 on those odds. So he put down on odds of 7-1, so he's now pocketed £210,000.
Fantastic.
Now, there's a bit of a search for this man. He's thought to be a retired accountant in his 70s, and he placed the bet in a sort of city centre, Ladbrokes. Apparently walked in, he was very well groomed. He was described as being well groomed, as he probably was, given he had that money to spare. He pulled £30,000 from his inside jacket pocket in £50 notes. The cashier added he looked like he knew what he was doing. He seemed very confident and calm considering the money at stake. He just thought it was a great bet. So I found this quite amusing, and I just thought, well, Either he knew something that the rest of us didn't, or he just happened to have a spare £30,000 that he didn't mind losing, because you would have to not be bothered about £30,000 to put a bet on. And just quite interesting that he was a retired accountant, and I thought he's probably had a whole working life of being sensible with money, and now he's probably just thinking, why not? Why shouldn't I put a bet on? But
it's extraordinary, isn't it? And to think there's sort of pundits in the US that probably were earning millions to put that programme together, and all of the stuff that they did, and they came up with we don't know, and then a pensioner manages to sort of crack it. How fantastic.
He's a lot richer, so apparently there's a search on for him. If I was him, I would just keep my head down. Anyway, we'll be back. We're going to have a short break now, but here are some numbers if you want to contact us. You can contact us on our telephone number, which is 01727 839 926. You can find us on Twitter at RVTheBusiness, or you can find us on YouTube, which is youtube.com/RVTheBusiness. We'll be back after the short break.
The Business, sponsored by Kingston Smith Chartered Accountants.
Radio Verulam Community Partners. Trestle Art Space is a community art space and registered charity situated in Russet Drive in Highfield Park, home to Trestle Theatre Company and world-renowned Trestle Masks. We offer a wide range of art-based activities as well as professional theatre shows, monthly live music showcases with licensed bar and a gallery cafe with exhibitions from local artists. Trestle's 100-year-old chapel is also available to hire for weddings, private parties and business meetings. To find out more, please visit our website trestle.org.uk and please support us in bringing affordable art to our community. For more information on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
And welcome back to The Business, and you're listening to Radio Verulam, and it's Victoria Scott. And tonight's show is all about the advantages of moving out of your home office and into a more commercial space. So we're going to start the discussion by introducing a scheme that new or nearly new startups can access in Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire, and it's called My Incubator, and it's run by WENTA. And Clare spoke earlier in the week to Alex Shoobert and started by asking her to tell us a bit about WENTA and what they do.
WENTA is an enterprise agency. We've been going for about 30 years, and we basically support anybody who wants to start up a business across Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. So we do kind of three main bits. We do one-to-one business advice, we do training courses, and then we also do provide property and offices for people setting up.
You have a service which is for startups called My Incubator. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, we have 6 offices around Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire, and we've got sort of like an open plan working space, which is hot desk for anybody who's starting up a business. So we've got sort of big office, and you've got a desk, you've got some PCs, or sometimes people bring in their own laptop, and you use that as your office. As you're starting up. So it's usually up to the first 12 months of trading. You'll use that as your office. You've got a professional working space, but then you've also got the business support alongside that. So there's a business advisor like myself based in each place. So you've got somebody to chat to go and ask questions. And you've also got other entrepreneurs working from there so that you can share ideas, you can ask advice, and sometimes you even get collaborations with people starting to work together as well.
And do you find, I mean, people use the space, even probably in the last 10 years, most of us have equipment at home that are probably 10 years ago we would have had to have an office to have that equipment, but most of us now will have a computer, broadband, a photocopier or a scanner, whatever. So you were saying there that there's collaboration. Do you think that's the main reason that people come and use something like My Incubator?
Yeah, it's interesting because most of the people that join have got the setup at home, so it's only a few people that say, well, I haven't got the space at home and I haven't got the computer. Most people say, I've tried working from home and it's just not really working. So I think one of the main things is that people feel like kind of coming into the office feels more professional, and they find it easier to concentrate and keep motivated, and kind of prefer having that separation. So it's become more of a thing, hasn't it? A lot of people working from home, and some people, for some people, that's the ideal situation, that you work from home. But for other people, actually, they don't really like that. They don't like the fact that they've got the distractions of, doing the washing up or mowing the lawn or whatever it is. They actually want to kind of keep a separation between their work life and their home life. But I think it's the social aspect as well, because I think some people also feel that they get a bit lonely at home, or you get that thing where you're trying to sort out a problem and it's going round and round in your head and you're not getting anywhere. And what you really need to do is say to somebody, let's grab a coffee, and grab a coffee, can I chat something through with you? And you've got that opportunity somewhere like this to do that with people who are they become almost like your colleagues, even though it really is just you running your business and they're doing something else. You got that feeling then a little bit more like having colleagues around you.
And Alex, if I was a new business, so I was just starting up, how easy is it for me to be part of the scheme? How would I be eligible, and would I have some money to pay to join it?
So if you wanted to join us, the first thing to do would be have a look on our website, which is myincubator.co.uk, and you could contact the incubator that is closest to you and have a meeting with the advisor there to see whether it was a good fit for you. If you're pre-start, so if you're not yet trading, it's possible to have up to 3 months free. And after that, and it varies slightly in different locations, but it would be something like £100 a month plus VAT after that free period. So it's a very affordable cost to kind of start up compared with going and getting your own private office. And the idea is it gives you then that flexibility, because you've got a bit more extra cash to invest in your marketing and the other things that you need to do as you're setting up.
What about the other facilities? I understand you have a virtual office facility. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about that and how that would benefit maybe somebody running a business?
Yeah, so if you didn't need to have the physical office space and somewhere to come in, but you like the idea of having a sort of professional business address rather than using your home address. And a lot of people use the home address to register, but feel that actually that's not the right impression that they want to give. One of the things that you've got then is that you can use, say, like the BTC in Stevenage, which is quite a well-known building. You could use that as your business address, even though you're not physically working from here. And what you would have then is you'd have the facility to have post come here and then sent on to you, or you can pick it up, whatever. And you could also have a phone number that comes through here. So you could have somebody answering the phone on your behalf as part of your company, and taking messages and passing them on. So if you've got a kind of job where perhaps you're out and about, you're on the road a lot, or you're with clients a lot, you may not be able to answer the phone, and you don't want to miss potential customers and important calls, coming through to you on your mobile. So the virtual office service gives you that facility where you've got, as if you've got a kind of a receptionist or assistant that can sort of answer the phone and pass the messages on.
And just finally, Alex, would you give us the website address again for WENTA, so that if people want to find out more about any of these services, they know where to go?
Yes, so the WENTA website is WENTA, which is WENTA.co.uk, and everything's on there, our training courses, the information about our incubators, and also about the business advice and other things that we do.
And that was Alex Shoobert of WENTA talking about the My Incubator project, and also another couple of services that WENTA provides. Well, we are going to discuss a couple of issues that came up there first, but I'd like to introduce our studio guest, Roma Bhowmick. Now, until recently, Roma was one of the business team, and Roma thought she'd got away. Roma made excuses that she was too busy to do the business, so we let her go for a while, but she's back. She's back again. So good evening, Roma. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's nice to be back in these new swanky studios.
Yeah, they're lovely, aren't they? And Roma, we've got you in for a couple of reasons, but perhaps you might just want to tell us a little bit about your current position and the sort of current things that you're doing.
Well, I sort of have a couple of roles, as it were. The key one is working with what are considered to be high-growth organisations, high-growth small businesses. So they're not start-ups, they're already trading, but they're growing extremely fast. And what I do is work with them on their strategies. So I'll go in and challenge their existing strategy, which is always interesting because for all intents and purposes, they're already successful. But it's about how you're going to sustain that growth, and actually, do you still want to achieve the same rate of growth? Is it relevant? That kind of thing. So my key function is as a strategy coach.
And let me just take you back. So you started with Business Link, is that right? And so you'll know a little bit about what Alex has mentioned there.
Yes.
So just to kind of discuss a few things that were on the clip. I mean, Alex was talking there about the fact that new entrepreneurs, it's actually quite good for them not to be in a home office, if you like, because they've got things like business advisors on hand, and they've also got other entrepreneurs around them and possibly can even get work from them. I mean, was that the kind of advice you would give to people in Business Link?
Yeah, I mean, taking a very slight step back before Business Link even, I actually started and ran my own business also, so I know what it's like to sort of be a small business owner, and that started at home and very quickly moved out into a purpose-built log cabin for 8 in the back garden, and then on from there. But yes, you know, the sorts of things that Alex has talked about are very interesting and very important for a small business. I think, you know, we tend to think the best thing you can possibly do is be your own boss. Go out there, earn the money, and it's all for you. It's not for anyone else. It's not lining anyone else's pockets. And then the idea that you can decide when you work, how you work, that kind of thing feels very attractive. The reality can be very different.
And that's what we're discussing tonight, because I think for a lot of people they think, and you quite often, if you're even just looking at comments maybe on things, you'll get some piece of spam, you know, work from home, like it's, you know, it's the thing that everybody wants to do, to work from home. But as we'll find as we go out throughout the programme, it doesn't suit everybody. It doesn't actually work for everyone. Now, another thing that Alex mentioned was the social aspect. So is this thing of, I think particularly when you start a new business and you're learning a lot of new things, it can feel quite isolating. So again, is that another good reason for not working from home?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're social animals and we learn from each other, and most definitely if you're at home you're getting no feedback. Yes, if you're in the sort of industry where you are regularly speaking to customers and assuming you've got the right expertise to be able to elicit feedback from people, at the end of the day you're only really talking to yourself or working with yourself. And I think from a sort of mental health perspective, I think it's good to be with other people, but more than anything for a small business, I think it's great to bounce ideas off other people. Alex talked about collaboration, and that whole idea of collaborating, very powerful stuff. Also, you might find that there are elements of your business that you're not as good at as perhaps someone else, and there might be collaboration of a different sort. You're bringing in others and their business acumen to help drive your company forward.
Well, as it happens, we have somebody who when I say recently, he's worked from home for about 6 years, and then in the last year he's moved into an office. So Doug Jenner ran his copywriting business, Best Words from Home. Then about a year ago he decided to make the move into a commercial office. He found experience has helped him grow his business and has had a lot of other benefits as well. Now, I spoke to Doug a day or two ago about his current business, and I just asked him if he could tell us first of all about his current business and where he started off.
My business is now a marketing communications agency, and we offer PR services as well as copywriting, which is a bit different from how we started, because when I started the business it was strictly a copywriting agency. I was sensing that I needed to move from working from home to working in an office, and there are a number of reasons for that. One of them was the whole family thing, and everybody sort of working around the fact that I was occupying this space in the house. the other thing was a desire to really separate the work from home, and the spaces, the mindsets, and everything else. Because I was more and more as I was going on, everything was overlapping, and I felt that when I was working at home, I was never really not at work, even though I would stop and have family time and meal time and all those things, all the other things that you do at home. For me, I kind of needed to have things a bit more separate. So for a long time, I envisaged this scenario where I would finish a working day, lock a door, lock up that space, leave it, and then go into a home space.
So Doug, let me just move you forward a little bit. So when you moved into the offices and you started working from there, what did you feel immediate benefit from doing it, or what were the benefits of moving into an office?
Well, I did, Clare, actually, yeah. And as I say, one of the benefits is having a separate space. The other one is really a kind of a psychological thing, really, but the way that you see your business. And I think you do see it in a different way when you're actually going out to work. For one reason or another, it carried over into the way Best Words was operating, and I started to get the kind of client that I really want, which was not so much the kind of clients that I was meeting in local business networking events, and more the kind of client that had the budget for the services that I'm able to offer.
Do you think that was simply because of a change in your mindset because you moved into an office, or do you think it was directly just because you moved into an office, or was it a change in your head, do you think? I think it was a bit of a change in my head, really. And that, as I say, in terms of how I look at my business.
But for me also, it was moving in with somebody that I was already working with, and I was working for their clients. And having had meetings in their offices, this space then became available, and I thought, well, this is ideal. Now, it's good for them too, because having me here, they can just come in at any time and say, hey, look, here's the project we've got, this is what we might want you to do on it, etc. And because we're all here, that whole process works much easier. So it is those two things. I think it is a psychological thing, but it's also quite a practical thing. And the other thing is, being in the centre of town here, having a nice office, I'm not meeting in coffee shops and meeting prospects in coffee shops, because they come up and we have a proper meeting in our office.
Have you found there are any disadvantages? Obviously, it costs to have an office, but yes. Apart from that...
I can't think of any. I am just so full of the advantages of having this office and being here now, and it's well over a year since I've been here, that I can't trade it off against anything except, as you say, for the ongoing costs. But even that is a benefit, really, because you start to become more aware of the benefit of what your costs are. So not really, no.
And Doug, if anyone wants to get hold of you, where's the best place to catch you? What's your website address?
Well, I've just developed a new website, and it's bestwords.co.uk.
And that was Doug Jenner, and there were some really, really interesting things and points that he made there. It's this idea, first of all, that it's important to sort of lock the door on work and separate work from home. It's a surefire way of actually maintaining a marriage. That's what I've found. If you can actually sort of stop working. What do you think about that? Do you know, is it really, really important, Roma, to keep the two separate?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of back to this concept of psychological benefits. I think I know from experience, it's really hard when you work at home to just focus. There's always something else that needs doing. It's interesting, just under 3 million businesses in the UK run from home, and of those 3 million, they're contributing £300 million in annual turnover to the UK economy. So it's not insubstantial. But to enable you to potentially grow your business, depending, of course, on what your objectives for your business are, and that's another conversation that we need to have. If you're looking, as Doug suggested, to grow your business, you've got to ask yourself from a psychological perspective, is this the right place for me to be? As well as a literal perspective, might you be better off elsewhere? And in his case, he found that actually it did work for him, both psychologically, he felt like a bigger business, and literally he started mixing with other people. So I think that there's a lot that's important about this idea of, should I be at home or should I look to move out of home as soon as I can? I think the other thing to say is, it's all well and good talking about the benefits, but actually, literally, there is the issue of cost, and it just doesn't work for everyone to have to go and rent office space.
Well, also, I think one of the things that he was saying there was that the particular type of clients that he needed were clients that could afford him in the first instance. So almost it's a sort of chicken and egg type of situation. If you're out there mixing with bigger businesses, then you'll become a bigger business. Yeah. But as you say, you know, if you're making cupcakes, then you don't need to hire a kitchen. You can do that at home, because actually the returns that you're going to get relative to the cost of space is just not going to be there. So it's really sort of quite important, I guess, to know when the time is right to move. And that's probably the most difficult thing that people find, because you know, you're growing, it's going well, and then you've suddenly got to sort of put an outlet out for office space, and suddenly your income drops just at a time when you think it should be going up.
Exactly.
It's difficult.
But it was quite interesting too that Doug was saying about it was to do with his perception of himself too, that when he actually moved into the office, it's almost like he was then deserving of the larger clients, who maybe he could bring them into his office rather than meet them in coffee bars.
But I think that's where the likes of WENTA become useful, because you know, you're in professional surroundings, you could bring clients in to meet you there. Also, you know, I'm a member of the Intuity directors, and quite often, even now, I'll use their facilities in Pall Mall or in the city to have meetings. Or the majority of my clients I work with, I'm working at their office space. So again, it's not necessary for me to have an office. I think it's all relevant to what the business you're running.
It does give an impression, and if you're meeting a high level client, it's very nice to be able to invite them to an office, because it sort of sets the tone for the business. We are going to be looking at ways of, if you can't afford to move directly into an office, we've got some offices and some things that you can try really to see how, if it suits you, so if it would suit you better to move out of home and into an office. And we'll be doing that after the break.
The Business, sponsored by Kingston Smith Chartered Accountants. At Kingston Smith, our ethos is simple. We want our clients to succeed. Welcoming owner-managed businesses and individuals, we pride ourselves on offering the local business community a range of services that best supports their needs for maximum growth. Kingston Smith, helping our clients succeed. Find us on St Peter Street in the heart of St Albans, or for more information, head to kingstonsmith.co.uk. You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
And you're listening to The Business, and I'm Victoria Scott. I'm with Clare McAnulty, and our studio guest is Roma Bhowmick. And tonight we're discussing the pros and cons of working from home and looking at the options available for local businesses to move out of the home and into the office. If you'd like to join the debate, or you have some ideas or experiences that you'd like to contribute, please call us on 01727 839 926. We're on Twitter at RVTheBusiness, email thebusiness@radioverulam.com. Or YouTube. We've got lots and lots of videos showing all of the programmes on YouTube. So, just before the clip, we heard from Doug Jenner at Best of Words, and in his case, he took the plunge and went for renting an office, and it really, really worked for him. However, what if you're not quite at that stage, and you'd like to see how having an office might work for your business, or how, you know, just moving into some different space might work? We heard from Alex Shoobert of WENTA, who mentioned the office facilities available for startups. But what if you're past startup stage, not ready to rent an office full time? What do you do? Well, there's lots of different options, and there's quite a few number of companies within Hertfordshire who offer office facilities for as little or as often as you need it. And earlier in the week I spoke to Isabel Dolan of Intuity Business Services, who shared how she had gone about the move from home to office.
I was working from home to start with, which I think is something that quite a lot of people do when they start their own business, and great advantage of being no strings attached and relatively cheap. But I was finding that, well, number one, the internet provision at home was really not very good. Our local broadband infrastructure is quite weak. And also there was the aspect of socialisation, that I wasn't coming across people in my day-to-day life in the same way as I had been when working in London in larger organisations. So I decided to have a look around and see what was in the local market.
And I understand that you actually chose Regis in the end. What made you select Regis?
There are a number of really good local providers. Regis offered a number of different products that looked as though they were going to suit my business at different stages of the growth of the company that I had in mind. I was really attracted to their business lounge product, which offered a pod where you could work individually in nice peace and quiet, whilst having people around you in reception and all office kitchen and other facilities that you need. And then when I looked around and chatted to their general manager, they were able to articulate to me that as I grew my business, they could offer growth of office space at any stage that I wanted to, virtually at the drop of a hat. So I then moved to what they call their campus desk product, where you have a small number of desks open to different people within a room, but it's a bit more peace and quiet than the business lounge. And then I moved into my own office, which was great, a really big step, and then gradually built up the number of employees that I have within the business. And Regis was able to follow me through with the provision of that space, basically at a week's notice whenever I needed it. And of course, it's great to have the meeting room facilities as well.
It sounds perfect for a small growing business, to be able to start in a way that's incredibly cost effective, but knowing that you haven't got to plan months in advance for taking on somebody or those sorts of things. So as you get new clients, as you need new employees, they can just grow with you very, very easily. Is it a cost effective way of going about managing space?
It is cost effective, but costs have two sides to it. There is the pound cost, which is great because it's scalable and flexible, and it has proved to be a cost-effective product for me. But the other side of it is in terms of my time cost. So I don't have to arrange for a cleaner for my office, or to buy tea or coffee or things like that, or to deal with a landlord and renegotiate leases all the time. So that's also a very significant benefit of it.
That's something that I hadn't really thought about, the actual costs of running your own office. What about things like phones and receptions and those sorts of things? Do Regis offer those sorts of facilities?
Yes, they do, and it's great because you can opt for a menu of products really and just bolt them on as you wish. So they've got a telephone answering service, a message service, which is branded with your own company name. They offer registered offices and also mail forwarding facilities too. So that's great. The telephone packages are very flexible, so you can decide to carry on just using your own mobile phone or opt into their various packages that they offer to you.
Now, one of the things that we hear about with small businesses all the time is this sort of tendency, particularly in the early years, to be sort of working 24/7. Are there restrictions to the time and the access to the offices with Regis?
Yes, they do have restrictions on some of their entry-level products, such as business lounges, which are open, I believe, between 8:30 and 6. So that's not too bad. But once you get into one of their small offices with Regis, it's 24/7 access and at weekends. So yes, I've used my swipe card and gone in at the weekends.
Oh, that's bad news. I was thinking it might be a really good idea of controlling the amount of hours that you do. So that was Isabel Dolan of Intuity, having what sounds to be a very, very good experience with Regis. And what interested me quite a lot, which we didn't cover in the clip, but Isabel and I talked about, was that there's quite a perception that these offices are expensive as an entry point, but in actual fact they have so many different types of deals that you really can get some very, very cheap space until you become sort of more familiar with what the setup is, more familiar with what you're going to need from it. And, you know, it sounded incredibly cost effective, much, much more so than you might think for quite swanky offices. Yeah, and I think, you know, it meets this issue of feeling like you've got that business environment, you've got somewhere, that whole, I hate to say the work-life balance phrase because it gets overused, but it really is important, isn't it, to be able to say, right, these are my core work hours, I need to feel like I can get away from my work. Realistically, when you own your own business, it is 24/7, like it or not, but somehow that physical separation can be very helpful. And then the other thing, of course, is for people who feel, actually, I need to be in control of when I am at the office and when I'm not. You know, she mentioned that actually there are certain restrictions, but in general terms there's 24/7 access. You've got business lounges you can use, you can get it at weekends. There's quite a significant benefit to doing that, and as you say, Vicky, you know, their deals start at what, £50. It's, you know, in relative terms it's not nothing, but it's really, really cheap. It is, isn't it? And I think the other thing that I thought was really, really interesting was that I know Isabel's business has grown quite quickly, but what she didn't anticipate was that it was going to grow quite so quickly. But what she found was that they were incredibly flexible very, very early on. So as soon as she needed office space, they had space available for her. As soon as she got her first employee, they were able to adjust the layout of the office that she had so she could accommodate another desk. You know, as soon as the third employee came on, she was able to move literally sort of next door into bigger space. So it was incredibly flexible, and I mean, nobody would ever say you shouldn't business plan, but sometimes you can't plan for, you know, those 3 new clients that suddenly come on board all in the same week that sort of really change the way that you do things. And you know, that sort of flexibility is really important.
I think too, if you've only ever worked from home, it's quite a nice way to try things out. So you can just maybe, I'm not quite sure what their minimum term is, but you can maybe book yourself in, or if you've got a lot of work on and you actually do need to get away from home and concentrate, so it's a very nice way of starting. Probably most people have actually seen Regis without realising it, because there's a big one that's just opposite the station, the St Albans station. They've also got some premises in Hemel Hempstead, Hatfield, Watford, Borehamwood and Porters Bar and Luton. So no excuse really for anyone.
Can I just add to that? The other thing that's quite useful with Regis, if you're doing a bit of travelling, is that they very often have offices at the airport. Yes, and you can just check in, and you know, it's almost like having a private business lounge, but with all the facilities that.
And fantastic that they are just at the station, because then you could maybe leave your car if you're coming in from somewhere else. Then you can just travel on the train. I mean, the other place that does offer this sort of similar facilities is the Hot Office, which I know quite well, and they've got a couple of offices. Again, if you want to try them, their website is thehotoffice.com. They've got places in St Albans, Harpenden, Welwyn Garden City and Aylesbury. So actually we're quite well served around here, very well served. And things, for example, like they've got boardrooms, if you're doing a workshop, those type of things. If people have never thought about moving, or they've been too afraid maybe for financial reasons to move out of home, it's just to stick your toe in the water. Yeah, and you know, if I'd like to come back to Vicky's point about expanding your business, I think one of the most difficult things for a small business that starts at home is this idea of an employee and where they work. There's nothing more uncomfortable in a way about someone having to come and work in your home environment.
very, very different dynamic. Recently I was speaking to a business owner of a fast-growing company. They're in the event management industry. She lives in the West End of London in a fabulous little flat, but literally she's now got 5 people working out of her lounge, and it's the strangest sensation. Now, they're very young and dynamic, and it seems to work for them, but it must be very difficult having everyone in your home. You know, it's a very personal thing.
It is, isn't it? It's very strange, and you know, that sort of balance between work and life, if it can also apply in terms of your relationship with your colleagues.
Yeah.
You know, if one minute you're telling them that they haven't actually delivered the task as well as you'd like, and the next minute they're lying on your sofa having a cup of tea.
That's right.
It can really change the dynamic in terms of the management of people, and that's another difficulty that people have when they're starting businesses. You know, if they haven't got man management experience and they're not so sort of familiar and they're used to doing everything themselves, those first few months of having new staff are very, very difficult without the added complication of them feeling as though you've got your sort of teenage daughter back from university or something sitting on the sofa.
Exactly.
And to go to your sort of area that you're covering just now, Roma, which is fast growing businesses, I mean, would I be right in assuming that nearly all of them work out of an office?
At the stage they're at, yes. I think of the companies that I've spoken to, and lately I'm talking about 50 organisations, I would say only 2 are still home-based. The rest of them have moved out into office space of some sort, including the hot office or Regis type scenario, but the majority have moved out. Then there's the other sort, which they're not such temporary facilities. There's a lot of, particularly in the East End of London, where buildings have been regenerated. There's shared office space, but it's permanent shared office space, so not a Regis or a hot office with facilities. You're just with other people, and interestingly, certain sectors have tended to club together, so you get all the creatives together particularly, and that's amazing. When you go into that kind of environment, when they are so creative, it's great to see what they do collaboratively. So often you see new business ideas coming out, which again is quite innovative and dynamic.
I think that concept of almost creating marketplaces has always happened, hasn't it? I remember when I was working in the newspaper and advertising industries, Covent Garden was just chock-a-block full of agencies, of ad agencies, and then everybody started moving out to sort of Smithfield, Spitalfields and that sort of thing, and then it became a sort of alternative creative hub over there, and if you hadn't got sort of brick walls showing and steel beams, then you weren't creative enough.
Absolutely. I can remember that when I first came to London, that was the first time I'd ever seen that, actually, because I'd only ever been in the kind of conventional office where we shut the door and that was it. But I remember coming down to London for the first time, and because I worked in television, we'd go to all these sort of very trendy offices and just being like amazed with, as Vicky's saying, about the bare brick walls and everything's very open plan.
Actually, I'd like to pick up on that open plan thing. One of the things that I noticed when I first sort of came out of corporate life was that I actually really enjoyed the silence, and I really did like working from home, and I really was very happy not to have all of those people rattling around me. But I equally found that when I then went into other people's offices, because like you, I tend to work in other my clients' offices, my ability to block out the extra noise had deteriorated.
It's quite difficult,
somewhat.
I think.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult. For certain occupations, I don't think it's a good idea, an open plan. But I think what you were saying earlier about maybe a sort of creative hub where people are sort of coming up with ideas and doing different things. But actually, where you need to concentrate, I don't think an open plan office is a great idea.
No.
I think it depends on the person, doesn't it?
Yeah, the person, the industry. I mean, again, going back to this creative hub that I'd been to recently, they're set up, again, it's all bare offices, bare wooden floors, and bare walls, bare wooden floors, but it's all very trendy, there's music, and the other thing that they have is this huge bar, and I thought, wow, a bar in an office. In the evening, there's alcohol, but the rest of the time there's a cappuccino machine and things, and they go to the bar. There's something called going to the bar. What they do is, if you've got a problem you need to mull over and you just want to talk to someone, you go to the bar, and people notice that you're at the bar, and they'll come and talk to you. And you know, you might come over to the bar, Vicky, and I notice, and I'll go over and say, so what's happening, Vicky? What's going through your head? And apparently they come up with, as a result, some great ideas, or they're able to deal with particularly complex issues that they just can't get their heads around. And I thought that was fascinating, just watching them do that.
That's a great idea, isn't it? I know in my daughter's prep school, they had a bench on the sort of playing fields, and if you went and sat on the bench, it basically told the bigger girls that you know, that your friends were being nasty to you, or you hadn't got any friends, or something awful had happened, and the sort of like the older girls would come and check that you were all right. And it's a similar sort of thing, isn't it? I thought it was a great idea in school playing fields, but particularly great idea in that sort of thing. It's also interesting because before the show, Roma, you and I were talking about you know, a lot of companies that find it very difficult to share information, or they feel terribly secretive, or they feel as though someone's going to steal their ideas. But actually, interestingly enough, those sorts of operations can so often benefit from actually sharing and if you've got a sound business idea and you've really nailed it, then people's ability to steal it is going to be incredibly small. And if it can be stolen that easily, then you have to ask yourself whether you're on the right strategy in the first instance, don't you?
Absolutely.
So I think, you know, we're all nodding our heads around here. The benefits of actually working together are so much stronger than any of the downsides, I would say, in creating, you know, and groups of people creating, you know, power groups, marketing groups, whatever it might be, is incredibly useful.
At the end of the day, as a business, the key to success is that you've got pretty much a unique market proposition. Might not be that you're doing something any different to anyone else, but it's the way you deliver what you deliver that differs. And that's the name of the game. So as you say, you know, sometimes sharing is not such a big issue.
So we're just going to move off the whole office just now, and there's a project, we actually mentioned it on the last programme, called the Green Triangle, and we're going to make Vicky our expert because Vicky did the interview. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the Green Triangle, Vicky, and how maybe businesses might be interested in maybe renting some space in there?
Well, it is interesting, and I'm absolutely not the expert, and at some stage in the next sort of few months we will have the expert along to really give us some insight. But it's a perfect sort of follow through from what we've just been discussing, basically, because the Green Triangle, as if you were listening last week you will have heard, it's an association between BRE, University of Herts, Oaklands College and the Rothamsted Research Centre, and they're all incredibly strong brands in their own right, and they've all got a real passion and a mission to create a centre of excellence in terms of the whole sort of sustainable green energy type of approach to all aspects of business. They've got a huge amount of expertise. They've got some really, really exciting space. They've got some really exciting ideas, and what they're trying to do is to pull in and draw in not all of the companies or not all of the companies, but relevant companies that are already in existence who are working in this space, pulling them together to share expertise, to share knowledge, to actually share space, but also through that process actually build this sort of centre of excellence such that it becomes almost the sort of like the hub in the UK for this type of business. Now they've got a launch on May 21st, when I'll be hearing an awful lot more about it, and as I said, in a few months' time we'll get some people who are real experts on it to tell us a bit more about it.
Where is it, Vicky? Is it a building?
Well, the office space that they've got is in Rothamsted Park, the research centre, which is a massive research centre. I mean, one of the biggest research centres in the world. The detail of the space I haven't got yet. As I said, it's going to be launching and so we'll have a bit more detail after May the 21st. As I say, going to that launch. But they're really wanting to build this hub of excellence. They're planning on getting as many as 3,000 jobs across Hertfordshire in green technology. They're really doing a lot of emphasis on employing young people in this sort of area, and they're looking to provide space for up to 100 small businesses. So, you're talking about really quite a big initiative. There is that element whereby these people have to have some sort of association with, with recyclable business or the green element has to be there. But, I mean, what a fantastic idea.
And particularly if you're the type of business that you can associate yourself with that. You maybe run an eco-friendly business, or even make a certain product or whatever, and then you're in with like-minded people, maybe picking up ideas and things. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
I think it is a watch this space, because I think that there's so many aspects to that word green. I don't think there's any doubt at all about the fact that the world is moving in that direction. As the world is moving in that direction, business is moving in that direction, and people are starting to recognise that the costs to business of being a bit greener aren't as great as they used to be. In fact, they can be they can be a positive, have a positive effect on your bottom line. But more importantly, there are whole new swathes of industry that are developing around that area that we just didn't really know existed a few years ago. And it reminds me of that statement. I can't remember. I think it was Harvard. Some smarty pants in Harvard came out with this sort of expression, which was talking about careers and saying that in 10 years' time, the names of the jobs that will exist, will all, something like 80% will be completely new. You will never have heard of that job
that
before.
As well. Because I went to something recently when they said that people that are starting, I'd say, a 4-year course just now, by the time they get to their 4th year, the job will have changed, or the jobs that are available will have changed. They'll almost be out of date.
Yes.
So all these things are changing. I mean, one of the things that got mentioned earlier, and I didn't bring it up at the time, is this thing of the virtual office. Now, this is quite a nice sort of halfway house again, where you've maybe got somebody answering your phone, but your phone being answered by somebody. You've also got a virtual address. Do you know any businesses that operate with that type of thing?
Yeah, I know a number of businesses that do, and actually what's great about that is they can maintain this very professional, almost like a bigger company image. On the one hand, from a cultural perspective, they probably don't want to be a big corporate, but on the other hand, because of the nature of the business they're in or the clients they work with, they want to appear bigger than one person. So it's useful to have that support structure there, but also an answering service, which again makes it sound as if you are larger than you are. They may even have a website that supports all of that. The virtual office idea is a very useful one, and again, as you grow, you kind of move away from having as many of the virtual support services as you might have at that stage into something that kind of is more real, as it were.
I think too, when you have, that's your first point of call, if people phone you, and if you can give a professional appearance at that stage, that's actually really important. You've got somebody professionally answering the phone, and there's nothing worse. I mean, I know this isn't completely connected, but I was looking last week for somebody to take a tree down, so I was looking for tree surgeons, and so many numbers I phoned, it was an answer machine, and it is quite off-putting until you get a human, you get somebody actually answering the phone, and of course that ended up being the person that I booked, because there's the thing of, you can leave a message, but will the person phone back? When will they phone back? You might just be quicker to get someone else. So I think these virtual office services are very good, and WENTA seems to run a very cost-effective one, but there's quite a number of those around as well in St Albans.
I think also another aspect to the virtual office idea, or an answer service idea, is that particularly if you've got someone phoning, just as you said, you wanted to find someone to effectively give you a service, it gives you as the service provider time to think about what it is they're asking and how you would propose delivering it. Because sometimes, if you've got it straight to your mobile phone and you're on the run between clients or on the train, there's nothing worse than not being able to talk with clarity. It just gives the wrong impression. So again, back to this professional distance, it gives that professionalism.
I think the other thing about that that I find is impossible to deal with is talking to another client when you're in with a client. It's just so unprofessional, it's frightening. And but it's very easy to actually sort sort of say, thank you so much for the call, I'll take your number, give you a call back, and most people don't mind that.
No.
But then it's incredibly important to call back, and I do find, certainly when I've been looking for services for myself or my clients, the number of people that don't call back is absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether they don't pick their messages up or they're too busy or what, but it's just staggeringly impolite, if nothing else.
I think as well now that there is a lot of overload, so you end up, unless you act on something right away, it's a bit like the amount of emails we all get, and really, unless you quite often read an email, I'll deal with that later, but then you end up not, because you get overloaded with something else. So I think that again is another reason why having somebody on the spot that can at least answer the phone and is a human being, is not you're not leaving a message. I think that helps enormously.
Actually, there's another virtual service that I'd just like to throw into this mix at the moment. And it's not so much about actually managing in the office itself, but it's actually about managing the accounts. Now, I would imagine, like me, because we do similar sorts of work, Roma, the number of clients that actually don't get round to invoicing, don't get round to doing their billing, don't get round to asking for the money for the work that they've done, and then they wonder why they've got cash flow problems. It's quite staggering. You know, they think that the job is done because they've turned up, they've done the work, and then actually they forget to ask for the money. And there's plenty of facilities whereby you can get people to do that for you, and quite often that's an area, it can do a lot of damage to your business. It doesn't look professional, but quite a lot of small business people just find it really, really difficult to ask for the money. So it's much easier to get someone else to do it for you.
Absolutely.
And that's a facility that that you can get virtually very, very easily these days. I think it's some of those sorts of things are just invaluable to small businesses.
What we would say to you is why not explore the possibility, if it's got to the stage where you've maybe had enough of the nirvana of the home business. And I mean, it is true that for some people it is ideal. You're maybe a multitasker and you're happier being at home and you can do everything. But I think for a lot of people, going to work does help with their business and helps propel their business. So anyway, we hope we've given you some ideas this evening. Thanks to our studio guest, Roma Bhowmick, to Alex Shoobert of WENTA and Doug Jenner of Best Words, and also to Isabel Dolan of Intuity. In our next programme, we'll be exploring more themes that are relevant to Hertfordshire businesses. In the meantime, from Vicky Scott, I'm myself. Have a great business week.
The Business, sponsored by Kingston Smith Chartered Accountants.
If there's anything in the show you want to talk to us about, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.